and all that sort of stuff. But if you're just massing Dryads, then you need the resources to be able to combat the Undead army, and so you need to get that expansion up. And so you'll notice that that's exactly what Suho is doing right now. And if you look up towards the top of his base, he knows he needs to make sure to get that expansion up. So he is sending his Ancient of War down near to where the expansion is, which is always a good idea. One thing you should always bear in mind as a Night Elf player is to make sure that you're making good use of your Ancients. Any Ancient that's not currently producing something should be doing something else beneficial to you, and so he's sending his Ancient of War in that spirit, or in that idea. And so you'll notice that that Suho's focusing down the Beastmaster pretty hard here, or rather that Rain is focusing on the Beastmaster pretty hard here, but Suho has brought in a number of wisps and is detonating heavily on Rain's army. So now Rain has no more mana, and now Suho also has the ability to repair his Tree of Life, which is doing a good deal of damage with the Dryads there as well. And now his Ancient of War, which I mentioned a second ago, was also in the fight. And so Suho, just by using all the tools that he has available to him, has managed to fight off this attack, which he probably could have lost the game right there if he hadn't have used his wisps and his ancients as well as he did. So that's something you have to bear in mind, that you need to get that expansion up, and you need to use everything you have at your disposal to make sure that that happens, if you're going this Mass Dryad strategy. So that's what Suho has done. And another aspect of that is the fact that he didn't get a Panda second. A level 3 Beastmaster in this case is probably more useful than a level 1 Panda and a level 2 Beastmaster. Low level heroes tend to die easier. It's easier to keep your hero alive if you just have one big one. And Quillbeast is better than level 1 Breath of Fire in that fight. And probably even better than Haze, because the Panda himself doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Whereas the Quillbeasts are very helpful in adding a lot of damage output to your army, which you need because when you're playing Dryads against Fiends, you don't have a tremendous amount of damage output. And not getting the Panda, of course, also allows you to focus your resources on making sure that you get as many Dryads as possible quickly, which is probably the most important part of this particular choice, given that Rain was rushing him at tier 2. Suho is able to have a lot of Dryads out very quickly, because he was able to save that 425 gold, or partly because of that anyways, and also get his expansion up and have an Ancient of Wonders and all that good stuff. So now Suho appears to be in pretty decent position. He's killed a number of Rain's Fiends, and his expansion is now up and running. And so he's just did a bit of creeping there. Creeping that goblin, that mercenary camp rather, is always a good idea, as you have the chance to get that health potion, which is very helpful versus undead. And now, to make sure that he maintains control, is going to go on the offensive. This is often a good idea when you are able to get this expansion up. Is even if you can't actually kill the undead player or actually beat their army, you want to do these runs into their base and stay on the offensive against them, to just try to keep them off guard until your resource advantage really pays off. And so he's going to pick up a couple of sappers and make a run into this undead base. Unfortunately, on this particular attempt, Rain was right there waiting for him, and this is something that you can actually use your scouts to help you with. If in this particular case, if Suho had a wisp on the lower side of Rain's base, or if he had used his hawk to actually scout where Rain was, he might have been able to time that a little bit better. But as it is, it's okay. He was able to TP out without losing really much of anything, and he was able to save his sappers, which are now hiding quietly on the north side of the map. But this is a dangerous position right now for you as the Night Elf player. The trouble the trouble with this expansion is that you lose a good deal in the attempt to make sure that it goes up in the first place, and you're not getting tier 3 while the undead is, and you need to make sure that this expansion actually pays off in the long run. And so the undead player, right as he gets his tier 3 and abomination and orb, his third hero, all this kind of stuff, is oftentimes going to run at your expansion and kill it. And if he does, then he's back in the advantage. So you need to make sure that doesn't happen, and the way that you do that is by attacking him, which is exactly what Suho is doing right now. He's able to use his sappers to do a lot of damage to Rain's base, and actually you stop his gold production for a while, kill a couple of ziggurats. So that was a nice move by Suho, but he lost some units in the process, and his army is actually continues to be fairly small. He's also having some lumber problems in this case, because he bought those sappers. Sappers are very heavy on lumber, and a lot of times in this instance what you want to do is buy a shredder to help you out with the lumber, which he could have done when he was at the Goblin Laboratory before. So that's something to bear in mind. Shredders are helpful for preventing these lumber problems in this case. And you'll notice down at his expansion he's created some Ancients of War to make sure that that doesn't die, but Rain is now doing the clever thing and attacking Suho's main. So now, this is an interesting point in the game. Suho has spent a lot of his resources on sappers and Ancients of War and all this kind of stuff, and he's stayed at 50 food. Meanwhile, Rain has gotten a fairly sizable army, 51 food, but tier 3 units and 3 heroes, and all that Suho has is level 4 Beastmaster and some Dryads. A much smaller army, in fact, because he spent more of his food is dedicated to workers. So at this point, Suho probably knows that if he tries to fight Rain's army, he's going to lose. He didn't spend enough of his resources on units. He's just behind in the army fight in this game. And so there's really no reason for him to try to fight Rain's army. Instead, what he's going to try to do, if you look at the upper left-hand corner, is go for a base race, which isn't intuitive with a Dryad army. It's not very good at killing buildings. But he picks up that shredder, he buys some more sappers, and meanwhile he's expanding very aggressively. He's already researched Nature's Blessing. His ancients are pretty tough, and if you look all around the map, he's already put a Tree of Life on the bottom hand side. He has a Wisp over on the left hand side, and he's just trying to make sure that he is going to end up winning this base race. So this is an interesting choice by Suho, and something that you don't see Night Elf players do a lot, but it's actually very effective when you think about it, because Rain doesn't actually have that good of a way of running around the map and killing all of Suho's buildings, and meanwhile Suho can do hit and runs on Rain's base. Rain has no resources left, no way of producing more units, because Rain really spent all of his efforts on making sure that he had a good army and good items on all of his heroes and 3 heroes and all that stuff. So he doesn't have an expansion. He didn't have towers in his base. He didn't have that much to kill when it comes to base racing. So this is actually a pretty clever move by Suho. And now if you watch him, he'll just make sure that his Beastmaster stays alive, and make sure that he makes good use of his Dryads. And meanwhile,